This video is about lesson 4-3. This is a problem-solving lesson and it has to do with reasonableness. The word reasonableness means that something makes sense. So when we think if something is reasonable or an answer to a problem is reasonable, it means that the answer makes sense in the real world. Sometimes we get a number as an answer, but it doesn't quite make sense in the real world. For example, I can't say that I need 4.5 buses to transport students somewhere because you can't have half a bus. So when we have remainders in division problems, we need to figure out what do we do with the remainders because they don't always make sense in the real world. There are three things that we might do with our remainders. Either we will completely drop the remainder. So if we got something like 4 remainder 2, we would get rid of the remainder and just have an answer of 4. Sometimes we go up to the next number. So if we had 4 remainder 2, we would go up to 5. And sometimes it is okay to leave the remainder. If it asks about having leftovers or things like that, sometimes it's okay to leave the remainder, but most times we'll either drop the remainder or go up to the next number. In the next few slides, I'm going to give examples of each of these three cases. Here's an example of when we might drop the remainder. There are 12 donuts in a box. How many can each person get if 5 people share the box of donuts? So, first we need to kind of figure out what problem we're going to be doing. We're going to be doing 12 donuts divided by 5 people. We haven't talked about long division yet, but for these problems, you won't even really need to use long division facts or long division knowledge to solve them. We can just use what we know about our 5's facts. So I know that we have 5, 10, 15. So one group of 5 is 5, 2 groups of 5 is 10, and 3 groups of 5 is 15. So if I'm splitting 12 into 5 groups, I can make 2 whole groups, and then from 10 to 12, there's 2 left over. So I'd have 2 remaining. Remaining is another word for leftover. Now, I need to figure out what to do with the remainder. Obviously, the title on this slide gives us a hint, but you won't always know. So you need to use your common sense in order to figure out what to do with the remainders. If people are sharing the box of donuts, we can't have a remainder. In this case, the question is talking about whole donuts. So how many whole donuts will each person get? Well, they'll each get 2, and then there's going to be 2 left. But that's not enough for everyone to get one, so we would just leave those 2 in the box and maybe they do something else with them. So this is a case where we're going to drop that remainder, and the answer would be that each of the 5 people gets 2 donuts. Sometimes you'll need to go up to the next number when you have a remainder. Let's look at this example. In the cafeteria, each table holds 10 people. There are 48 students at lunch. How many tables are needed? So I need to figure out what we would get if I take the 48 people and split them up or divide them into groups of 10, since each table can hold 10 people. I don't need to know how to do my long division here, I just need to know how to count by tens. I know that 4 groups of 10 would be 40, and 5 groups of 10 is 50. 50 is too much. So I know that this is going to be 4 groups of 10, which is 40. And to get to 48, I have 8 left. 8 left means remainder 8. So my answer is 4 remainder 8, but that doesn't make sense in the real world. I can't go out and buy 4 remainder 8 tables. If I crossed out the remainder and just left it at 4 tables, there would only be spots for 40 kids. So the other 8 kids would not have a space to sit at lunch. So that means that I need to go up to the next number and get 5 tables. That would be room for 50 kids. We only have 48 kids, so there will be 2 spots that are empty, but that's okay. We have to have enough to accommodate all the kids. So we would need 5 tables. So in this instance, I had to take 4 remainder 8 and go up to the next highest number, 5. Sometimes it is okay to leave the remainder. This doesn't happen quite often in the real world or in real world based problems, but sometimes it does. Let's look at this example. Annie bought 127 apples for her class. There are 20 kids in her class. How many apples can each student get and how many are left over? Because it asks how many are left over, we can leave our remainder since remainders are leftovers. So I'm going to want to figure out 127 divided by 20 students. I know that 20 times 5 is 100. So 20 times 6 is 120. So I'm kind of close there. Another group of 20 times 7 would be 140, and that's too much. So my answer is 6. They can each get 6. And since that's 120 and we have 127, we'll have 7 remaining. Remainder 7. Since it asks how many each student gets and how many are left over, I'm okay to just leave that remainder. I could write it like 6 remainder 7, or I could go back and write out 6 with 7 left over. I want you to go ahead and try this on your own. Think about what you might do with the remainder. Are you going to leave it, go up to the next number, or drop it? Beth makes 68 cupcakes and needs to put them on a tray. Each tray holds 9 cupcakes. How many trays does she need? Go back and review the previous slides if you need to. Good luck.